As we welcome into the program, the editor-in-chief of the Fourth Period. He's the host of DFO Rundown Insider on Wednesdays with our buddy Irf Ghaffar here on the Nation Network. Looking forward to weekly chit-chats with David Pagnotta. Now that we've reached Insider season, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, boys. It's the conversations are never dull, especially in Vancouver, with everything going on. So things are picking up. Things are percolating a little bit more, which is nice. But now let's see when the action actually comes through and these guys follow through with some of these talks.
Think of where you guys would be without the Vancouver Canucks, David. Year after year, they deliver.
Their content providers.
In trade season for everybody. Okay, let's get going here. First, because we understand it's probably the most urgent situation, is Kiefer Sherwood. What are you hearing there?
Yeah, he's the prize piece in terms of what they're willing to move, who they're willing to move, and it's not just the offense. It's a trifecta for teams, contenders that are looking to really bolster their lineups going down into the season, later on in the stretch, and so on, and into the playoffs. It's his goal-scoring ability, it's his physicality, and it's his cap hit this season. All three of those make him one of the most attractive available pieces in the trade market and will continue to until he's ultimately moved. $1.5 million cap hit is a sweetheart of a deal for what he brings to the table. Teams love his energy. They love the fact that he's not afraid to throw the body and he can finish. So without question, he's up there. I know there's been some talk of, high draft picks and second round picks and things like that. I'm anticipating the likelihood of a first round pick as a return with respect to the asking price as part of a deal for Kiefer Sherwood. They hadn't really had any talks or actual negotiations, I should say, earlier on in the season with respect to an extension. I've got to imagine that everyone around the league kind of understands he's going to be in that $4-5 million range on an AAV, depending on term. But I don't anticipate the Canucks giving any team permission to talk to his agent. So you're looking at the acquisition cost being for this season, and then you're going to worry about it, take the risk, and worry about the future later. But he's the prime guy, and any contender, really, any top-tier team is going to have a conversation, at least poke around, to see what they can do to try to pry him out of Vancouver.
Because of that cap hit, any Evander Kane-sized cap hit, for instance, might have to wait till later in the season, or you hold back and retain, just to whittle that down. Because of the cap hit for Sherwood, is this bordering on an imminent trade for him, do you think?
Well, I think teams are going to be a lot more open to making a move now versus having to wait for somebody else, whether it's Kane or somebody else on the roster. This just went out on Monday, so everybody's still trying to clamor down and figure out exactly how they can do this. The Canucks are obviously going to try to generate the best and biggest return, so it might be in their best interest to give this a little bit of a leash before trying to making a move here with them. Like I said, a first-round pick from a top-tier contender is obviously high first round. The ask could be more than that because of you start creating a bidding war. It's like, all right, well, we'll take the first, but what else are you going to do to sweeten this pot in order to make this happen? Especially now, because now it's not just a matter of utilizing a good cap scenario to make a move now. It's also keeping him away from several other teams that are going to try to get him. And if you're looking at teams that are looking for offense or secondary scoring, at least that want some physicality, take your pick. You look at the Central Division, all three teams at the top right now would be open to trading for a player of his caliber. Whether they want to give up the price, I don't know yet. But those are teams that would love to get their hands on a guy like Sherwood. Colorado, Dallas, Minnesota. You look at what else is out there. You look at the East. New Jersey would love to be able to add a big piece into their, to bring into their top or mid six. There's talk of them looking at centers, but they're open to every scenario. The Montreal Canadiens, another team that aren't at the top right now, hovering. They're only 2 or 3 points out of first in their division. But this is another club that's out there looking to see where they can bring in somebody that fits the exact mold of a Kiefer Sherwood. As much as they'd like to address the center position, another team. So there's no shortage of suitors that would love to acquire this player. Now it's going to be a matter of Rutherford and Alvin trying to pluck away the biggest return.
Yeah, and you look at that Eastern Conference and how tightly bunched it is for playoff positioning. You got to think that one of them there looks and says, okay, how do we separate ourselves? Conor Garland, when we talk Garland, we're not talking draft picks here, David. Explain.
Yep. Yeah, no, exactly. This is going to be, the good old hockey trade, talent for talent kind of swap. There's no need to move him for future assets. He's under control for a lengthy period of time. He signed that new 6x6 deal that kicks in July 1. His no movement clause also kicks in July 1, but it doesn't apply now. And that's going to be the interesting thing. The Canucks certainly like him. There's a reason they signed him to a 6-year extension. They'd like to hold on to him, but they're still going to listen. And, you heard his name in the last week or 10 days or so, and you're like, all right, maybe that's just, teams poking around. And then the memo comes out and it makes a lot more sense. But this is going to be another situation where you've got to convince us to move Conor Garland. We're open to it. We're not going to shut the door, but you've got to convince us to do that. So you're talking about a player in his most likely primary piece, mid to late 20s, more on the mid side, that is controllable, that is under contract for a period of time. And then let's fill out the other pieces here. This isn't going to be, as I mentioned, Garland for a couple draft picks and a couple prospects. If he is moved, this is likely you're swapping out a different type of player in order to bring this guy in, and maybe a little bit younger that fits this this mindset now moving forward.
That's fine tuning, isn't it? Because this is not a large cap hit for Conor Garland. This is a guy that does so many things that the Canucks need to. I mean, he is. Look at the goal last night. We talked about that one being a great brochure if he is indeed on the market. I mean. Yep. I'm having trouble seeing the narrow path that they're trying to walk there, unless they're trying to get a center. But again, winger for center is not a likely scenario either, is it?
No, not particularly. But in those scenarios, you're talking about other pieces involved. This isn't one for one kind of type deal. You're likely looking at other scenarios. So again, they're more than happy keeping him, but they're listening. And you've got to. This is a convinced situation. I think the most interesting thing, guys, about what the Canucks have done by letting this come out, or just sending out a memo. You can just call everybody. Yeah. But by doing that, you look at what they have, and you look at all the no trade protection that's there with all the assets that would attract the biggest returns. They're almost immovable. So whether you're talking about Garland or the pending UFAs with Sherwood, Kane, Bluger, Forbert, etc. This is quasi window dressing while trying to fill the youth and prospect and draft pick cupboard. So you're trying to say, hey, look, we're going to do something here. We're going in this direction. We're, sort of punting the season already, given where we're at by listening to all these offers. We'll cash in on Sherwood. We'll fill up a little bit with some of the other guys, and then maybe we'll make a bolder type move with respect to Garland. But outside of that, and if you're expecting an impact type addition or a significant impact move here from this team beyond what we just discussed, I just don't see that being an option internally right now. Some are different scenario, but right now, I have a hard time looking at this going, all right, there are pieces here that make sense. Unless you're comboing this, unless you're going Garland, Sherwood, another piece, and now we're talking about a mega deal, which is not out of the realm of possibility. But if they're trying to move some pieces and try to fill their cupboards elsewhere by doing so, it's going to be again, window dressing is what I call it. But at the same time, you also have to prepare for, you're moving some assets for futures. You have to prepare for how the rest of the season is going to go.
Rutherford said he's trying to beat the trade deadline, basically trying to do whatever he was going to do at the trade deadline, doing it early.
Yeah.
But as you say, David, it's like you are just kind of ending your season early. You're not getting any better, most likely, with these trades. That's the peculiar thing for me, is for him to be acknowledging all this so early in the year. Doing all these moves on February 10th or March 1st, totally get it. Doing it this early, it's interesting in a Canadian market.
Yeah, I wonder if part of the reasoning or the decision process in doing this is a combo of trying to maximize your return, obviously, and seeing if there is a bigger deal, like a combo type deal that I just talked about. But the other has to be trying to light a fire under everybody's butt, trying to get these guys going to say, hey, listen, we're going to listen now. This isn't January, February, March. We're going to start listening now. And if we get convinced of a deal, we're going to move you out. Or you can maybe convince us otherwise. Maybe you figure this out. Maybe you can get this going. I've got to imagine part of the messaging here is directly at the guys on this roster right now in an attempt to get them going and galvanize this group in some way. Piss them off enough where they start playing better and playing more consistently. I've got to imagine that's part of it, but it's not going to stop Rutherford and Alvin from listening on the guys that are available.
Big right shot defensemen are always in demand, particularly in the playoffs. And you understand there's interest in Tyler Myers, but it's more complicated than that, David.
It is, yes. One of the guys with the no movement clause, and his name always seems to pop up because there are teams that are interested, and he's got a few different situations that he's got off the ice that is affecting decision process with respect to him even considering a move. I don't get the sense that most of these guys, or any of these guys right now, that have a no movement clause are going to consider waiving it at this point. Especially guys that have committed to the market, committed to the team. Like Brock Boeser doesn't make sense. I know that his camp had a conversation a week ago with management, and they're happy with his game. That was the message that was relayed. So to do that and then suddenly pull a 180, I just don't see it in that scenario as well. So yeah, there are going to be teams that are continuously going to ask, and this happens on a regular basis, memo or not. Teams are going to call and say, what's the deal with him? Is there an opportunity for a conversation here? Yes, great. No, all right, moving on. That happens regularly. But as much as there are teams that have interest in Tyler Myers, I just don't see that being a possibility. I reached out to his camp as well, and they'd be surprised if anything comes across their desk in terms of a consideration to waive that no move.
Drew O'Connor, he's got a 12-team no-trade list. David, what are you hearing there?
Another player with interest, and this isn't exclusive, again, because, yes, the UFAs are the guys that are generating the most attention out of all this. And then you see Garland's name out there with teams trying to see what his our acquisition cost is. Drew O'Connor's another. He's got another year on his contract, solid cap hit overall. But they're not against moving guys with term that can be moved. And Drew O'Connor kind of fits into that mold. With that extra year, there is a little bit of controllability that teams will have. So you're not just looking at adding him now, you're looking at adding, for 2 runs. And this would be a team that is looking to make a run, that is trying to shore up their bottom 6. There was interest in him quite a bit before they acquired him from Pittsburgh when they did. And then, get that extension kind of in there. So, certainly there are going to be teams now that are going to look at Drew O'Connor, continue to look at Drew O'Connor as a possibility. Now, because of where he's at with, a little bit of say with that no trade list, and also just because he has that extra year, this is one that if it does happen, it could certainly happen sooner than later, but I would imagine it's happening a little bit closer to the second half of the season as opposed to where we are right now.
And lastly, from me, David, we talked about it yesterday. Canucks may very well be able to take advantage here of a seller's market. To the best of your knowledge, Is it the Canucks and the St. Louis Blues selling right now?
No, Nashville's very much in there, and I know Barry Trotz. Yeah, I know he's come out all week and said it's almost been a different message every day, which is interesting. But
probably says something.
The consistent. Too. Yeah, the consistent message out of all that is that they're listening, and they're willing to listen on almost everybody. I don't think they're at the point where they're going to blow this up and start listening on Forsberg and Yossi and those kinds of guys. And I don't see a scenario where an in-season move involving a guy like UC Saros makes sense across a variety of different areas. But Ryan O'Reilly is the main guy. They've got a number of UFAs and Michael Bunting and Howla and others. I think they've got 5 pending or 6 pending unrestricted free agents that they're willing to listen on. In addition to those guys, plus Ryan O'Reilly, who has another year on his contract, Stamkos and Marchessault. And those are 2 guys that they are willing to move, that I think both guys are willing to go to a contender. They will be in a position to explore their options and see which teams are inquiring. They have full control in that scenario with their no movement clauses. But they want to be able to compete not just this year, but for the duration of their deal. Stammer has 2 more years. Marchessault has 3. and they got full control. The interesting thing there is Nashville is going to want to retain, or going to need to retain, at least on Stamkos' deal.
Yeah, for sure.
And one team that's kind of poking around and has been at the very least trying to find out a price is New Jersey. New Jersey is going to be active, not just at the dot position, but just looking to bring in somebody that slots into their top six. And I'm looking at the Devils as a team that's at least had some conversations about some of those guys. But in terms of sellers markets, yes, Canucks, yes, St. Louis, add Nashville into that mix. And to an extent, Calgary is still listing on guys. I still think they're trying to determine what the heck they want to do internally. Even with Don Maloney coming out, their president, last week saying, pump the brakes, we're not sure yet. They're still open to having calls. And once they make that decision, I suspect there'll be a lot of activity out of there as well.
Quickly on the buyers, especially the bubble teams that theoretically right now might be close to a lottery. But a team, Toronto doesn't have a first-round pick, but other teams that are in that mix, New York and Edmonton and such, are teams going to be a little bit loathsome to peel off their first-round pick for deals to improve themselves for the playoffs, to try to make the playoffs? Given it's a pretty nice draft, there's a lot of players at the top here that are pretty impactful.
Yeah, and I think those teams are going to want to wait to see where they're at exactly before determining what direction they want to go. Like, unless you're getting a clear-cut star who's controllable, you're not really entertaining that mindset right now. Later on, if they're still near the bottom of the standings and it's looking bleak, then I think some teams are open to or willing to open that possibility. But right now, I haven't really gotten that sense. Now, that doesn't mean the top tier teams aren't willing to move out their first round picks and things of that nature. I think they are. But those bubble teams right now, and it's so hard because, you look at the Eastern Conference and, you've got 4 teams that are a point out. Some teams are tied in the standings with the final wild card. So teams still want to figure out where that gap is. Everybody I've talked to that are kind of in that mold, on the Insider Edition with Irf yesterday, we talked with Don Waddell, the Columbus's GM, and he said, there's a lot of talk, but there's no action right now because everything is so jam-packed. And that's the same message I've been getting from a number of teams as well, that yes, there's a lot of discussion. Yes, there's a lot of activity, but actual action, I don't know if we're there yet. So it may take a little bit more time, but for those bubble teams, they want to see exactly which path they're taking. Are they going left or are they going right? And if it's whichever direction isn't good, then they'll start opening up their minds to moving out additional assets.
The Rangers are interesting, guys, because the Rangers have 2 first-round picks.
Mm-hmm.
So
they're an interesting one.
So they could peel off one of those and see what happens.
And that's because they want to keep that. They want to, especially with that owner. It's compete, challenge, be good. We need to sell tickets and merch and all that.
We know owners like that.
We're familiar with those kinds of owners. Well, the good news
similar
is
messaging there.
The good news is, David, if these teams need time to figure themselves out, hey, we got time.
Yeah,
we got time every Thursday to talk to you, my friend, going forward through deadline season. Appreciate this. We'll be watching DFO Insider on Wednesday with Irf, and we'll catch up a week from today.
Thanks, David.
Can't wait, boys. See ya.